Well, good morning. Springfield's Morning News on this Tuesday. And I want to get your reaction to what we covered a bit yesterday on the bill that advanced out of the state Senate, now can be taken up by the Illinois House, with them going into overtime this week to craft a budget, but they can also take up a bunch of other bills. And the bill that advanced out of the Senate last week, Friday, late, was from Senate President Don Harmon that restricts where you as a citizen can bring a lawsuit against the state or state actors alleging that a law is unconstitutional. Now, a couple of recent examples of people taking lawsuits to their local counties and getting injunctions against the states. You've got the Safety Act, the no cash bail provision. If you recall, last fall, as the election was over, you had a lawsuit that was filed by state's attorneys across the state in various counties. I think that there were dozens of counties where they had these lawsuits. And then you had in Kankakee County a judge consolidating those cases and hearing it and deciding in favor of the state's attorneys that the no cash bail provision and other provisions were unconstitutional in the Safety Act, and there was an injunction put in place. And then you had the state Supreme Court have to take that case, and they said, all right, the Safety Act's on hold. It's not going to take effect January 1st as it says in the law until this is litigated. The Supreme Court heard that earlier this year. I believe it was in February where they actually heard that case. So that's one instance of using local courts to get injunctive relief that ultimately does end up in the Illinois Supreme Court. Another recent example that we've covered a lot is people suing over the state's gun and magazine ban. And you've got cases from Effingham County, from White County, from Macon County, McHenry County. You had the state's attorney up there file a lawsuit in state court that was transferred to federal court. But in the state courts, you had an injunction issued, a temporary restraining order issued on behalf of thousands of plaintiffs from the Effingham County cases, the White County case, and the Macon County case. And the Macon County case actually is now under consideration by the Illinois Supreme Court. So I don't know if that was the impetus for this bill that Senate President Don Harmon presented and passed on Friday. Here's a little bit of that back and forth that Harmon had, and then I want to get your reaction to all of this at 217-629-7970. Again, 217-629-7970. Here is the 2 minutes or so of debate on this bill. You'll hear Senate President Harmon. You'll hear State Senator Terry Bryant. You'll hear State Senator Jason Plummer. And here's that debate from Friday.
They can bring a great variety of causes of action, including those relating to the Constitution in any county. This is a very limited case. It's where the cause of action is against the state itself or one of our officers seeking declaratory or injunctive relief against a state statute on the basis that it's in violation of the Constitution.
This is a terrible bill. We have circuit courts in this state for a specific reason, and that is so that people are able to go to their courts and have their grievances heard, not so that we can make it more convenient for the person that was mentioned previously, which is the Attorney General. This is a very bad bill. And every single one of you should be paying attention to this because you have a responsibility. I have a responsibility. The sponsor has a responsibility. Even the Attorney General has an office in Carbondale. Why? Because he wants to be close to the people that he's serving. This is a terrible bill. Vote no.
This is a small subset of cases typically brought. It is not the routine cases and controversies most people would bring. It is a relatively extraordinary action. They all eventually end up in the Supreme Court, which, by the way, sits in Sangamon County and Cook County. So it makes sense. And again, it is not new. There are a variety of statutes today that say venue is proper in Sangamon or in Cook.
People that can't afford fancy lawyers and expensive lawyers, people that might struggle to be able to pay filing fees, have to go to Sangamon County and Cook County to hear their concerns or have their concerns heard. This is offensive to the people of Illinois. And with all due respect to the president, I think some people in this body are starting to forget who works for who. The judiciary does not work for the legislature. The legislature does not work for the constitutional officers. And the judiciary and the legislature and the constitutional officers work for the people of Illinois. And it's time that you start showing some respect to the people of Illinois, quit limiting their rights, Quit taking their rights away. And frankly, when we take their rights away, at least give them the decency and the respect to allow their concerns about their rights being taken away be heard in a local courthouse. This is an affront to democracy. I urge a no vote.
So I want to hear from you now at 217-629-7970. Your thoughts on this. There are 102 counties with county courts in Illinois for the state judicial system. All right, 102 counties with the seats of those counties holding the circuit court where an individual can go and have their cases and controversies heard. And sometimes those cases and controversies include challenges, constitutional challenges of Illinois state statute, bringing those cases in state court. We heard two examples. The Safety Act with various states' attorneys across the states bringing action against the states in different counties across the state, and then getting injunctive relief, temporary restraining order, that the state Supreme Court has to take up. That was not done in Cook County. That was not done in Sangamon County. That was done in Kankakee County. The gun ban case. You've got people bringing actions in various counties that weren't Sangamon or Cook County. But the bill that Senate President Don Harmon has would essentially say you can only sue out of 102 counties. 100 of them are off limits, and you can only file suit in Cook or Sangamon. So Chicago or Springfield. What does that do for the people in Southern Illinois, Carbondale, Cairo, elsewhere? 217-629-7970. Early start to the morning, but glad we're getting some phone calls. You guys are awake. Good morning. You're on WMAY.
Good morning, Greg. Good to hear you back in studio. No, this is a terrible bill. We know what this is all about. This is all about that they want to get judges that will rule in favor of the state more predominantly, and it's not about the Attorney General and making it easier for the Attorney General has state resources. They can travel wherever they need to go. This is all about the state judge shopping to try to get favorable judges that will rule in their favor.
And that was a point that Jason Plummer made after the Senate president said that, there's been some forum shopping going on. Plummer essentially said this codifies forum shopping
It sure does.
in favor of the state.
It sure does, and it's just like back in the days when people used to go to Madison County because the trial bar there, trial juries there used to be a lot more favorable to the causes and big damage awards and things like that. It was the same kind of thing. People should be able to file. What about people who can't afford to travel but need to get some concerns out there about what the state is doing? I agree with the one person that said they've forgotten who they work for. They work for us, and next election we need to remind them of that.
Appreciate the call, 217-629-7970. Good to be back in studio because I got my bell here, so I can click that as well. We'll take another call before the break, but I do want to get more of your calls at 217-629-7970. Good morning.
Yeah, hi there. They have all these circuits in Illinois where there are certain counties that group together. Springfield's in the 7th, Menard County's in the 8th. And that means that the judges, it came from when they used to ride the circuit.
Sure.
But they're all equal, which means that if the circuit down in Carbondale, if you can file a case in the state court in Springfield, you should be able to file the same case down there because all the courts are equal in Illinois. In other words, there's no such thing constitutionally that you can only file a case in the state court in Sangamon, but you can't file the same case in Carbondale. That's baloney. That's not giving them the equal rights with Springfield. It's treating it like a federal court.
It's not equity.
No,
which is a buzzword you hear
word.
around all over government right now, is equity. I don't know how this is equitable in making sure that people in Southern Illinois have the same access to the courts to redress their grievances with government by limiting
You're telling them
to
they
just
have to go to
Springfield or
Springfield
Chicago.
and file their case there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's wrong. It's illegal. It's going to be tossed on its ear by some federal court somewhere. They're going to say, knock it off.
We'll see what happens. I appreciate the call. 217-629-7970. Let's get more of your calls coming up here on WMAY. It's now 6:20, and got to take a quick break, but more of your calls coming up here. All right, so stay tuned.
And it's time that you start showing some respect to the people of Illinois, quit limiting their rights, quit taking their rights away, and frankly, when we take their rights away, at least give them the decency and the respect to allow their concerns about their rights being taken away be heard in a local courthouse. This is an affront to democracy. I urge a no vote.
So let's get your calls at 217-629-7970. And that's the phone number here. A few moments left for you to sound off. This bill that's at the House now, after passing the Senate, it would essentially restrict where you, as a citizen of the state of Illinois, can file a lawsuit against the state over a law that you say is unconstitutional. And the two counties that it would limit it to are just Cook County, Chicago, or Springfield, Sangamon County. Instead of counties across the state, 102 different counties with their different courts and locally elected judges as well, locally retained judges on a local level. And Senator Harmon, State Senate President, he's looking to restrict that. He doesn't want people from Cairo to go to their local court. He doesn't want people from East St. Louis to go to their local court. He doesn't want people from Carbondale to go to the local court, or Quincy, or Rockford. He wants only people to file lawsuits against state laws in Cook County, Chicago, or Sangamon County here in Springfield. 217-629-7970. Good morning. You're on WMAY.
Yeah, they really only seem like they want to play where they can win. They don't really, and they don't care. They'll throw it right in our face. They do not care whatsoever.
Well, and I don't know if recent happenings led to this. As we talked about just before the first segment on this was, two recent high-profile cases, challenges that states' attorneys brought against the Safety Act to prohibit the cash bail provision from, being implemented, the no cash bail provision. They filed that across the counties, across the state. In Kankakee County, they consolidated them, and a Kankakee County judge issued a temporary restraining order against the law. The gun ban challenge. You had cases all across the state. Effingham, White, Macon, those received temporary restraining orders against the law. Would they have gotten the same outcome if they went to Cook County? Would they have gotten the same outcome if they went to Sangamon County? That's an interesting question. You can't necessarily get a crystal ball and say, yeah, okay, it would have been a different outcome. But still, it looks like by limiting people's access to that could lead to more favorable outcomes for the state.
They wouldn't have got the same outcomes. That's where all these laws are coming out of, is up north in Chicago. If they would have had a hearing up there, there would be no injunctions.
Yeah, it's pretty remarkable. Appreciate the call, 217-629-7970. We might have time for one more. But something else to consider, too, during COVID-19. And I don't know if this would impact these particular challenges, because during COVID-19, the litigation that was brought forward was not against state laws. It was against executive mandates. So maybe those challenges will still be allowed to be filed in local county courts, because Tom DeVore, the attorney who brought all those cases on behalf of school parents and kids about masking and exclusion and even vaccine mandates, he was able to get different outcomes from different courts across the state. I think in Sangamon County, they sided with the mandates, but in other counties, I think in Effingham County, they said that these mandates weren't proper. So you've got the important aspect of the three branches of government at play here, right? The legislative branch, which is, the state Senate and the state House. You've got the executive branch, which is, the governor and other executive agency officers. And then you've got the judicial branch, and they're all supposed to be a check and a balance on each other, so that the judicial branch can hear challenges brought by, say, the legislature against the governor, or the governor against the legislature, or the people against the governor. And all of these things obviously are part of our society, to where we have the ability to challenge laws. But if this particular measure was to pass the House and the governor was to sign it, it would limit you in where you can file lawsuits against the state alleging that a state law is unconstitutional. So a lot more to come on that. I imagine once it gets into the House sometime this week, there's going to be a lot of spirited debate. So we'll be bringing that to you here on WMAY, no question about it. I'm Greg Bishop. Thanks so much for tuning in each and every weekday morning. We've got plenty more to get to here here on WMAY. But if you want to follow me elsewhere, you can do that. Bishop on Air. Just search Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, and we can connect that.